Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. All right, Mashpaka, we're back now for part 4. And if you have not watched part 3 and part 2 and part 1 continued in part 1, stop this right here and go back and watch the ones that you have not watched. The covenant of creation, this one being the covenant of creation. Esau rejected his birthright. What about you? What about you? And so here in part 4, we pick up this teaching once more in Bereshith, Genesis 37th chapter, verse 1 through 3. And again, it was previously spoken in the previous video that the firstborn barakah, which is given to the firstborn, which is the inheritance, is passed down through firstborn sons. Is given to the firstborn son because the firstborn son is the beginning of his father's strength, and he has more of his father's nature and character than any of the other children. And thus, being the beginning of his father's strength, the father gives all of his belongings to him. This goes all the way back to Adam, where the father has given all of his belongings to Adam. He's given all of his belongings to Adam, and by extension all the way down to YAHUAH'S, which is the whole of the YAHUAH'S. And so that barakah and those characteristics are passed down throughout the generations. And so he only renews his covenant. He only gives his barakah. He only renews his covenant with those who have his character and his nature, with those who are his firstborn sons. Barak Yahuwah. So here we pick this up again in Bereshith, Genesis chapter 37. I'm only going to read verse 1 through 3. And Jacob dwelt in the land of his father's sojournings, in the land of Canaan. This is the genealogy of Jacob. Yahusuf, being 17 years old, was feeding a flock with his brothers. And the young man was with the sons of Bilhah, of Balha, and the sons of Zalpah, his father's wives. And Yahusuf brought an evil report of them to his father. And YAHUAH'S, loved Yahusuf more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a long robe. It says he loved Yahusuf, just no different than when Abraham, how Abraham loved him. Why? Because Yahusuf was more like Jacob than any of his other children. And so this is why Yahusuf is firstborn. Reuben was firstborn according to the flesh. But when he slept with his father's wife, that firstborn barakah then passed to Yahusuf. Because Yahusuf, just like it passed from Esau, because Yahusuf had more of his father's characteristics and nature, and by extension, more of the nature and characteristics of Ishkak and Abraham and Eber and Shem and Nuach and Kanuk and Methuselah, and all the way down to Adam and Sheph and even Habal, and ultimately Yahuwah himself. And thus, Jacob loved him. He loved him because he was more like him than any of his other sons. And so he made him firstborn. He is the firstborn. Yahusuf, he is the firstborn. And so, again, Yahusuf was given the firstborn barakah. He was given the birthright. He was given the birthright because he was more like Abraham and Ishkak and Jacob than any of his brothers. He had more of their nature and more of their character than any of his brothers. Likewise, so was Ephraim, the youngest son of Yahusuf. Likewise, so was Ephraim. Ephraim was more like Yahusuf, and more like Jacob, and more like Ishkak, and more like Abraham, and so forth, all the way back to Adam, than Manasseh was. And so we have to have the characteristics of our father in order to be firstborn, in order to be considered firstborn. If we don't have his characteristics as the firstborn son does, the beginning of his strength, who is more like his father than any of the other children, we're not his firstborn, and we will not inherit. And so Ephraim is now firstborn. This is why Ephraim represents Yasha'al. And this is why sometimes the northern kingdom, which is Ephraim, the northern 10 tribes, is sometimes called Ephraim and sometimes called Israel or Yasha'al, because he took on the name of his grandfather, because he has his grandfather's characteristics. He has his grandfather's characteristics. And so, again, Ephraim is firstborn and he represents Yasha'al. So if Yasha'al, listen, inclusive of Yahudah, is not like Ephraim, who is the firstborn, Yahudah will not inherit. Yahudah will not inherit. He has to, I don't care who you are, Ephraim or Yahudah, you have to have the characteristics and nature of firstborn, which by extension is the very characteristics and nature of Yahuwah himself, Barak Yahuwah. And so as we read here in Genesis, of Bereshith, the 48th chapter, verse 1, I'm going to read down through verse 22. And after these events, it came to be that it was said to Yahusuf, see, your father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, see, your son Yahusuf is coming to you. And Yasha'al strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. And Jacob said to Yahusuf, Al Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and Baruch me, and said to me, see, I am making you fruitful, and shall increase you, and make of you an assembly of peoples, and give you this land to your seed after you as an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Mashraim before I came to you in Mashraim. Indeed, Ephraim, the name, means doubly fruitful, double fruitful, doubly fruitful. And so in Ephraim, his name was going to be doubled. His seed were going to be doubled. He was going to be double fruitful. The firstborn son was going to be as numerable as the stars in Shamayim through Ephraim, Barak Yahuwah. And so it reads here, and now your 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Mashraim before I came to you in Mashraim, are mine. As Rahuban and Shamaum, they are mine. Your offspring, who you shall bring forth after them, are yours. And he left them, and let them be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance, Yasha'al. And I, when I came from Padan, Rakal died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath. And I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is, by Lakam. And Yasha'al saw Yahusuf's sons and said, who are these? And Yahusuf said to his father, they are my sons, whom Elohim has given me in this place. And he said, please bring them to me, and let me barak them. And the eyes of Yasha'al were dim with age, and he was unable to see. And he drew them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Yasha'al said to Yahusuf, I had not thought to see your face, but see, Elohim has also shown me your seed. So Yahusuf brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Yahusuf took them both, Ephraim with his right hand toward Yasha'al's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand toward Yasha'al's right hand, intending for Manasseh to get the firstborn barakah, because Manasseh was firstborn by flesh, but he wasn't, Manasseh didn't have all of the characteristics and nature of his father that Ephraim had, that Ephraim had, and brought them near him. And Yasha'al stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, intending to give him the firstborn barakah, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he baraked Yahusuf and said, the Elohim before whom my fathers Abraham and Ishak walked, the Elohim who has fed me all my life long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil, barak the use, and let my name, listen, and let my name be called upon them. He has his name. Ephraim has his name, and this is why the northern 10 tribes is sometimes called Ephraim, or Ephraim is sometimes called Israel, because he carries his name, or Yashar'al. And let my name be called upon them, and the name of my fathers, and listen, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Ishak. And Ishak, he has their nature and characteristics. And let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when YAHUAH'S saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in his eyes. And he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And YAHUAH said to his father, not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also becomes a people, and he also is great. And yet his younger brother is greater than he. And his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. His seed, Ephraim, is to become the completeness of the nations. He is placing his inheritance, the inheritance of firstborn, that he received from Ishak, whom Ishak received from Abraham. He is placing this very same barakah. He is placing the renewal of the everlasting covenant. He is placing the renewal of the everlasting covenant on the head of Ephraim. On the head of Ephraim. And he baruched them on that day, saying, and you, Yashar'al, shall barak, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And Yashar'al said to YAHUAH, see, I am dying, but Elohim shall be with you, and bring you back to the land of your fathers. And I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. And with my bow. Barak YAHUAH. Barak YAHUAH. So here, Ephraim receives the barakah, the firstborn barakah, the renewal of the everlasting covenant. The renewal of the everlasting covenant is made with Ephraim. It is made with Ephraim and not Manasseh, because Ephraim was more like Joseph than Manasseh. And Joseph, or YAHUAH, was more like Jacob than any of his other brothers. Reading now from Malachi chapter 1, verse 1 through 5. The messenger of the word of YAHUAH to Yashar'al by Malachi. I have loved you, said YAHUAH, but you ask, in what way have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, declares YAHUAH? And I love Jacob, but I have hated Esau. Indeed, if you read Shamut, the 20th chapter, what does it say? It says that he repays down to the third and fourth generation of those who hate him. And those who hate him, they are his enemies. They hate him and they are his enemies. And we understand. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let me see if I got that precept there. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll just keep reading. I don't want to get ahead of myself. The message of the word of YAHUAH to Yashar'al. But let me finish with Shamut, the 20th chapter. But it talks there about how he repays his enemies down to the third and fourth generation. But he shows loving commitment to thousands of those who love him and keep his commandments. Now we understand that Esau, who was not firstborn, don't keep his commandments. They don't keep his commandments. Esau doesn't keep his commandments. That's a characteristic of Esau. Esau does not keep his commandments. The firstborn son does keep his commandments. Wherefore, he loves his firstborn son, and he gives him his inheritance. He renews his covenant with him, with his firstborn son. Reading here, I have loved you, said YAHUAH. But you said, in what way have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, declares YAHUAH? And I love Jacob, but I have hated Esau, and have laid waste his mountains, and his inheritance for the jackals of the wilderness. If Adum says, we have been beaten down, let us return and build the ruins. Yahuwah of hosts said thus, let them build, but I tear down, and they shall be called border of Romans, and the people against whom Yahuwah is enraged forever. And your eyes shall see, and you shall say, great is Yahuwah beyond the border of Yasharal. Bereshith of Genesis, the 4th chapter. Let's look at this. Verse 1 through 8. And Adam knew Kua, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gained a man, Yahuwah. And again she gave birth to his brother Habal. And Habal became a keeper of sheep, but Cain became a tiller of the ground. Indeed, people of Yahuwah are what? Are keepers of sheep. We're keepers of sheep. We are shepherds. We are his sheep. We are his sheep. And thus Habal here became a keeper of sheep, but Cain became a tiller of the ground. And it came to be in the course of time that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to Yahuwah. Brought an offering of the fruit of the ground of Yahuwah. What does the Torah say? What does the Torah say? I've already told you in the previous video that Torah is everlasting, that Torah is Yahuwah. And even then, that Yahuwah taught Torah to his firstborn son Adam, and Adam taught it to his children, so they understood Torah. What does Torah say? Torah say we're to bring him the first fruits of the ground, the first fruits of the ground, the first fruits of the soil. And so right here, we see in the very beginning that Cain did not obey Torah. He did not obey Torah. It says here that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground, of the fruit of the ground. It does not say he brought the first fruit, but simply the fruit of the ground, the fruit of the ground. Listen, and Habal also brought of the firstborn. He brought of the first to split the womb in accordance with Torah. He brought the first fruit. So here we see the distinction being made right here between Jacob and Esau, Barak Yahuwah, between Habal and Cain, and between Self and Cain. We see the distinction here being made. Firstborn sons, we have his characteristics. We obey Torah, whereby taking on his very nature and his very character. And Habal also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And Yahuwah looked to Habal and his offering, but he did not look to Cain and his offering. And Cain was very wroth, and his face fell. And Yahuwah said to Cain, why is he wroth towards you? And why is your face fallen? Is it not if you do good, you are to be accepted? And if you do not do good, towards the door is a crime. He is lying, and towards the door is a crime. He is lying, and towards you is his desire, and you must rule over him. And Cain told Habal his brother, and it came to be when they were in the field. When they were in the field, indeed, Cain was a man of the field, just like Nimrod and Namrud, and just like Esau, that Cain rose up against Habal, his brother, and killed him. Just like Esau tried to kill Jacob. Just like Esau tried to kill Jacob. So we're talking about these characteristics. You can see that he's very hateful. Esau is very hateful. He does not obey Torah. He does not obey Torah. He's very hateful. He hates his brother. And he does not have the nature and character of his father. Indeed, again, the firstborn has the nature and character of his father. If we obey Torah, which is the nature and character of Yahuwah, we take on his character and we take on his nature. So indeed, Cain hated Habal because Yahuwah had chosen Habal over him, the same as Jacob and Esau. He used this hate and jealousy to murder his brother. It is written in other texts that Habal was pure of heart, was pure of heart. Indeed, only the pure in heart are going to see Yahuwah. But it is written in other texts that Habal was pure of heart and loved his brother. He was very trusting of him. And Cain used this trust to lure him into a field. And as he walked behind him, he picked up a rod and struck him from behind and continued beating him. Habal then cried for compassion, asking his brother not to torture him, but to do it quickly if he was going to kill him. In this other text, and more specifically the forgotten books of Adam and Kua, Cain then picked up a stone and smashed his head until the brains oozed from his head. And so Esau, a descendant of Cain, is very hateful. He hates his brother. He hates his brother, and he does not have the characteristics of Yahuwah. He does not have the nature and character of Yahuwah. He does have the nature and character of his father. He does have the nature and character of Cain, and by extension, Hashatan. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He has the nature and character of his father, Hashatan. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Hashatan was Cain's father, not in the flesh, but by Ruch. We're still talking Ruch. Cain was the son of Adam and Kua. It's in the text. It's in the text. All this foolishness that he was the son of the serpent, that's a lie. He was conceived from the seed of Adam, and he was birthed through Kua. He is their son. But Hashatan entered his heart. Hashatan entered his heart in the same way that he entered the heart of Esau, and in the same way that he entered the heart of Namrud. And so Esau, and by extension Nimrod and Cain, their seed, they don't have the characteristics of Yahuwah. They don't have the characteristics of Jacob and of Ishkak and of Abraham and of Nuach and of Shem and of Abba and of Kanuk and of Methuselah and of Adam and of Habal and of Sheph. They don't have these characteristics of a firstborn son, and by extension of Yahuwah. They have the characteristics of their father, Hashatan, who is a hater. He hates all men. He hates all men. Yahusha talks about this in the Bashorah, talking about the Pharisees, telling them that their father is Hashatan, because they had this very same hate for their brother. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They didn't have the characteristics of Abraham. This is what he meant. If Abraham was your father, you would not be trying to kill me. He told them that their father was the devil, and he was right. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Because they didn't have the characteristics of a firstborn son. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They obeyed more of the doctrine of men than they did of Torah, whereby they took on the characteristics of their father, Hashatan, and not the characteristics of Yahuwah. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Barak Yahuwah. Let's read Galatians chapter 3, verse 1 through 29. And we're still talking about the covenant of creation. Esau despised his birthright. What about you? Esau despised his birthright. What about you? And we've already discussed that the everlasting covenant is only renewed with firstborn sons. It ain't renewed with nobody else. He is not giving his inheritance to anyone else besides the firstborn son. And the way to identify his firstborn son is that his firstborn son has his nature and characteristics. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Galatians chapter 3, verse 1 through 29. Listen, O senseless Galatians, who has put you under a spell, not to obey the truth, before whose eyes Yahushua Mashiach was clearly portrayed among you as impaled? This only I wish to learn from you. Did you receive the root by works of Torah? I'm not going to address that in this video. I'm not going to address this. We're talking about the ceremonial law here. And in the book of Galatians, we're talking about circumcision, adult circumcision. But I'm not going to get into this. I want to point out something else in this text. Or by hearing of belief? Are you so senseless, having begun in the root? Are you listening? Are you so senseless, having begun in the root? Do you now end in the flesh? Do you now end in the flesh? Have you suffered so much in vain? If indeed in vain, is he then who is supplying the root to you and working miracles among you, doing it by works of Torah or by hearing of belief? Even so, Abraham did believe Elohim, and it was reckoned unto him as righteousness. Know then that those who are of belief are sons of Abraham. And the scripture having foreseen that Elohim would declare right the nations by belief, announced the good news to Abraham beforehand, saying, all the nations shall be Baruch in you. Excuse me. So that those who are of belief are Baruch with Abraham, the believer. For as many are of works of Torah are under the curse. For it has been written, cursed is everyone who does not continue in all that has been written in the book of the Torah, inclusive of animal offerings. Inclusive of animal offerings. He's still talking about circumcision. I don't have time to address this because I'm heading in another direction to do them. And that no one is declared right by Torah before Elohim is clear. And that no one is declared right by Torah before Elohim is clear. What is he talking about? Animal offerings. Animal offerings. Animal offerings. Indeed, I'm not here to discuss this, but I can't get around I can't get around making this declaration. He's talking about animal sacrifices. This is because from the very beginning, Yahuwah put into place, but by the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. And so the question is, are we declared right by animal offerings, or are we declared right or righteous by belief in the offering of the body of Yahushua HaMashiach? I'll take B, Barak Yahuwah. The righteous shall live by belief. Let me read this again. And that no one is declared right by the Torah before Elohim is clear. For the righteous shall live by belief. And the Torah is not of belief, but the man who does them shall live by them. Mashiach redeemed us from the curse of the Torah, which is death, having become a curse for us. For it has been written, cursed is everyone who hangs upon a tree. In order that the barakah, listen, in order that the barakah, the inheritance, the promise, the everlasting covenant that was made with Abraham, in order that the barakah of Abraham might come upon the nations in Mashiach Yahusha, to receive, listen, to receive the promise of the Ruach through belief. To receive the promise of the Ruach through belief. You see, it is through the Ruach that we receive the adoption as sons. It is through the Ruach that we receive the adoption as firstborn sons. You see, Abraham had the Ruach HaKodesh. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Adam had the Ruach HaKodesh. Habal had the Ruach HaKodesh. Self had the Ruach HaKodesh. Canaan and Canaan and Kanush had the Ruach HaKodesh. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Methuselah and Kanuk and Nuach and Shem and Eber and Abraham and Ishkak and Yaqub and Yahusuf and Ephraim all had the Ruach HaKodesh, going all the way down to Yahushua HaMashiach, who was also full of the Ruach HaKodesh, whereby receiving the promise. Whereby receiving the promise of the Spirit, the promise of the Ruach, whereby having the everlasting covenant renewed in them. Whereby having the everlasting covenant renewed in them. You see, the everlasting covenant is a marriage covenant. The everlasting covenant is a marriage covenant. And when, as a man enters a woman, when a man becomes one flesh with a woman and enters a woman, they enter into covenant with one another. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And the same way, when Yahuwah marries us in the renewal of the everlasting covenant, his Ruach enters us. His Ruach enters us. His DNA enters us. We are reborn from his loins. He enters us, whereby the everlasting covenant, the promise of Abraham, the renewal of the everlasting covenant, the firstborn barakah is renewed in us through his Ruach. But he ain't giving them to you if your heart is wicked, and if you're not guarding Torah, you won't receive the immersion of the Ruach. You won't receive him unless you show that you have some of his nature and character. Unless you show that you have some of his nature and character. Just like Yaqub could look Ephraim and know that he had his nature and character. Just like Abraham could look at Jacob and understand that he had his nature and character. And he put his hand upon him. He put his hand upon him. See, the laying on of hands has been going on a long time. See, this is how transference of roots occur. Just like Shaul in the Ba'it Kadesh, when he would lay hands on people, and how the laying of hands is still going on this day, and the root is given to them, and the renewal of the everlasting covenant is given to them. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so when we take on his root, Barak Yahuwah, we truly take on his nature and character. We truly become akkad with him. We truly begin to speak like him and act like him and think like him. We begin to we are then the beginning of our Father's strength, and thus the firstborn barakah is passed down to us. It's passed down to us, whereby we're reborn now from above. And whereby in the words of the Hamashiach, he says there now, verily, verily, I say unto you, unless one is born from above, he will by no means enter into the reign of Shamayim. He won't inherit. Only firstborn sons inherit. Only firstborn sons inherit. And the characteristic of a firstborn son is an obedience to Torah and the indwelling of the Ruach HaKadosh. This is the promise of Abraham. The indwelling of the Ruach HaKadosh. Those who don't have the Ruach HaKadosh are not his sons. They're not his sons. Yahuwah is not flesh and blood. Yahuwah is Ruach. He is Ruach. And those who do not have his Ruach are not his sons. They're Edomites. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're in their flesh. They're in their flesh. They're sons of Cain. They're descendants of Namrud. Their father is Hashatan. If you don't have his Ruach, you're not his son. Period. Period. And you're not going to inherit. You're not going to inherit. And when his root comes upon us, that very same root writes his Torah upon our hearts. Writes his Torah upon our hearts, whereby we truly take on his nature and his character. And everyone who doesn't have his nature and his character are not his firstborn sons. They're not his firstborn sons. And everyone who doesn't have his nature and character, they don't have his spirit. They don't have his root. And if you don't have his root, you don't belong to him. You're not his son, and you won't inherit. And you won't inherit. Excuse me. Excuse me. So read it here again. For it has been written, cursed is everyone who hangs upon a tree, in order that the barakah of Abraham might come upon the nations, and Mashiach Yahusha to receive the promise of the root through belief. Brothers, as a man I say it, a covenant, even though it is man's, yet it is confirmed. No one sets it aside or adds to it. But the promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed. He does not say, and to his seeds, and to his seed, and to his seeds, as of many, but as of one, and to your seed, who is Mashiach. This is why the Mashiach must enter us, who is the firstborn son. He must enter our hearts. His root, the root of the Mashiach, the Ruach HaKadosh, must enter into our heart, and we must become one with him. He came as firstborn. When he enters us, we too become firstborn. We too take on the very nature and character of Yahuwah, who is Ruach. Who is Ruach. And we become firstborn sons, and whereby, again, when he enters us, whereby he marries us, and whereby the everlasting marriage covenant, whereby then becomes renewed in us. It becomes renewed in us. Barak Yahuwah. Yes, it does. It becomes renewed in us. Now this I say, Torah that came 400 years and 430 years later does not annul a covenant previously confirmed by Elohim or Mashiach, so as to do away with the promise. For if the inheritance is by Torah, it is no longer by promise. But Elohim gave it to Abraham through a promise. Through a promise. For if the inheritance is by Torah. Now again, whose inheritance go to? The firstborn son. The firstborn son who has the very nature and character of Yahuwah. And if you don't have his spirit, his ruach in you, as Abraham did. You're not his son, and you're not going to get the inheritance as a firstborn. The covenant is not yours. It hadn't been renewed with you. You're not going to inherit. You're not going to inherit. No, you're not. No, you're not. So we're still looking at these characteristics now. Now we're talking about the ruach. This is what it all points to. This is what it all points towards. And this is what Esau rejected. Esau rejected the Ruach HaKadosh. He rejected it. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Cain rejected the Ruach HaKadosh. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And those of my people, a whole generation that perished in the wilderness, they rejected the Ruach HaKadosh. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. No different than the Pharisees when they rejected the Ruach HaKadosh. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And thus Yahushua called them sons of the devil. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. For if the inheritance is by Torah, it is no longer by promise. But Elohim gave it to Abraham through a promise. Why then? The Torah, it was added because of transgressions, until the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained through messengers in the hand of a mediator. The mediator, however, is not of one, but Elohim is one. Is the Torah then against the promises of Elohim? No, because we take on his character and his nature when we obey the Torah. When we obey the Torah. But the inheritance, the promise, the inheritance of the firstborn is via the Spirit, via the ruach. Because when we take on the ruach, then we take on his nature and his character. And whereby we become firstborn sons, and whereby we will receive the inheritance. Not through Torah, but through the ruach. Here's the disclaimer though. He ain't going to give you his ruach unless you obey Torah. Do you see it? He's not going to give you his ruach unless you obey the Torah. The living Torah is not going to come to make his abode in us unless we obey Torah. No, he isn't. No, he isn't. Acts the 5th chapter, the 32nd verse. He is not going to give his ruach, the living Torah, to us unless we obey Torah. Unless we obey Torah. But the inheritance which is given to firstborn sons, unless you are a firstborn son, you won't inherit. And unless you have his ruach, his spirit, whereby now we can truly take on his nature and his character, and whereby becoming firstborn sons. If you don't have this, if you don't have his nature and his character, you're not his son. You're not his firstborn. You're a son of the adversary, and you're not going to inherit. You're not going to inherit. The mediator, however, let me go back. And it was ordained through messengers in the hand of a mediator. The mediator, however, is not of one, but Elohim is one. Is the Torah then against the promises of Elohim? Let it not be. For if a Torah had been given that was able to make alive, truly righteousness would have been by Torah. Who makes alive? The ruach. The ruach makes us alive. Only the ruach can give life. Only the ruach can give life. But the scriptures have shut up all mankind under crime, that the promise by belief in Yahushua Mashiach may be given to those who believe. But before belief came, we were being guarded under Torah, having been shut up for the belief being about to be revealed. Therefore, the Torah became our trainer unto Mashiach. The Torah became our trainer unto Mashiach in order to be declared right by belief. In order to be declared right by belief. How did it train us? It trained us in animal offerings. It trained us in the workings of the ha'iko. It trained us in the workings of the priesthood, kahana. It pointed towards the Mashiach that showed that being right, showed that all of these offerings, everything, the offerings and the priesthood and the workings of the ha'iko all pointed towards the HaMashiach. And so this was training. This was training. And after belief has come, we are no longer under a trainer. For you are all sons of Elohim through belief in Mashiach Yahusha, provided that the ruach of Yahuwah dwells in you. For as many of you were immersed in the Mashiach, have put on Mashiach. There is not Yahudi nor Greek. There is not slave nor free. There is not male and female. For you are all one in the Mashiach Yahusha. And if you are one, and if you are if you are of Mashiach, then you are seed of Abraham and heirs according to the promise. Heirs, heirs, heirs. Only the firstborn sons are heirs. Only the firstborn sons are heirs. And so the Mashiach, where he comes in, is he enters us. His Ruach enters us. He paid he paid the price of the penalty which was pronounced over Adam, which was the penalty of death, and that the day you partake of the fruit, in that day you will die. And so that judgment had to be carried out. And so when we are immersed into the HaMashiach, in the Makuah Tabbalah, in the immersion in which some falsely call baptism, it is a representation of the death, burial, and resurrection of the HaMashiach. It is also a representation of judgment being played out. When we go underneath the water, it is a representation of us dying with the HaMashiach, thus having the penalty of death paid in us through him. It has to be paid. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It has to be paid. We have to believe in his offering, and we have to be immersed in his name in order for that penalty to be paid. It also represents our burial, and it also represents a resurrection to the newness of life, so that now his Ruach, his perfect, crimeless Ruach, can come and dwell in us, whereby giving us an adoption, whereby making us firstborn sons, whereby giving us the very nature and character of Yahuwah, which Abraham had. Which Abraham had. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And whereby we will inherit. We will inherit, because the inheritance only goes to firstborn sons. There is not Yahudi nor Greek. There is not slave nor free. There is not male and female. For you are all one in Mashiach Yahusha. And if you are of Mashiach, then you are seed of Abraham, because Abraham had the spirit of the Mashiach in him. And heirs according to the promise. Heirs according to the promise that he gave to Abraham. The promise that he gave to Abraham and his seed. Firstborn sons who have the characteristic and nature of their father Yahuwah. Galatians 4. Galatians 4. I'm not going to address a lot in Galatians, because it has to do with circumcision and the ceremonial law. In this video, it's not about that. I'm not going to address that. Perhaps in subsequent videos, I'll address Galatians, but I'm not going to get into Galatians. Galatians is one of those places where Christians, this is their go-to chapter, trying to ignorantly tell us that the Torah is done away with, and they say so ignorantly, and they do so to their own destruction. But I'm not going to deal with that in this teaching. But here I'm going to read Galatians 4, and I'm going to read verses 21 through 31. Beginning at verse 21, it reads here, "Say to me, you who wish to be under Torah, do you hear the Torah?" Here he's talking again about the ceremonial law. He's talking about the ceremonial instruction. He's talking about the ceremonial instruction. He says here, "Say to me, you who wish to be under the Torah, do you hear the Torah?" He's talking here about circumcision. Most of Galatians is about circumcision. It is about circumcision. Read it. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's about the circumcision of the flesh. And Shaul is making the declaration that the circumcision of the flesh does not, the circumcision of the flesh is not a salvation issue. The Yahudim thought it was a salvation issue. Adult circumcision of the flesh is not a salvation issue. The circumcision of the flesh is not a condition of receiving the promise, but the circumcision of the heart is. The circumcision of the heart is. You see, when the Ruach enters the heart, he circumcises the heart. When the spirit of the Messiah enters the heart, he circumcises the heart. So the circumcision of the heart is a salvation issue. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because when the Ruach enters us, whereby circumcising the heart, we become adopted sons. We begin to take on his nature and his characteristics, and whereby he gives his inheritance to his firstborn son. For it has been written that Abraham had two sons, one by a female servant, the other by a free woman. But in here, in Galatians 4, we're talking about the difference between the flesh and the root. We're talking about the difference between the flesh and the root. Indeed, we're talking about the difference between Jacob and Esau. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We're talking about the difference between Jacob and Esau. Here, these two sons here are Ishak and Ishmael, but they too are by extension a representation of Jacob and Esau. Jacob, a representation of Ishak. Ishmael, Esau, a representation of Esau. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. We're talking about the root and the flesh. The root and the flesh. Those who are born of the root are sons of Elohim, are firstborn sons of Elohim, and have his characteristics and nature. Those of other flesh are descendants of Hashatan, and Cain, and Esau, and Nimrod. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. For it has been written that Abraham had two sons, one by a female servant, the other by a free woman. But he who was born of the female servant was born according to the flesh. Was born according to the flesh. What does he mean? The one born according to the female servant is Ishmael, whose mother was Hagar. Whose mother was Hagar. He was born according to the flesh. We're going to talk a little bit about that more here momentarily. But he was born according to the flesh. And he of the free woman through promise. And he of the free woman through promise. The promise of what? The promise of the root. We just read it in Galatians chapter 3. The promise of the root. Whereby we receive the inheritance, because when we take on his root, we take on his nature and his character, and whereby we become firstborn sons. And he of the free woman through promise. This is allegorical, for these are the two covenants, the original and the renewed covenant. One indeed from Mount Sinai, which brings forth slavery. Here, he's talking about Mount Sinai. He's talking about the covenant that was given in the foreskin of the flesh. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Galatians is all about circumcision. He's talking about the covenant which was given in the foreskin of the flesh, which brings forth slavery, because the flesh is bondage. The flesh is slavery. The flesh belongs to Hashatan. Adam sold it to him. This is why we must be reborn of root, to be set free from this flesh. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And so Mount Sinai represents the circumcision of the flesh, which brings forth slavery, because the flesh is bondage. The flesh is slavery. It cannot obey Torah. It does not want to obey Torah. It is wicked. It is criminal. There is nothing good that dwells inside of it. And it is not. Those who dwell in the flesh are not sons of Yahuwah. You're not sons of Yahuwah. No, you're not. No, you're not. Which is Hagar. For these are the two covenants, one indeed from Mount Sinai, which brings forth slavery, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and corresponds, listen, to the Jerusalem which now is, and is in slavery with her children. Indeed, the flesh is bondage. The flesh is slavery. It is. It belongs to Hashatan. And so unless you've been set free from it by the Ruach HaKadosh, whereby being born from above, whereby now you're under no more inclination or obligation to obey the wicked inclinations of your flesh, whereby taking on the very nature and character of Yahuwah, whereby becoming firstborn sons, so that you will inherit. If you're still in your flesh, you're not going to inherit, because you are a son and daughter of Hashatan. But the Jerusalem above is free. But the Jerusalem above is free, which is the mother of us all, provided that you've been born from her. And if you've been born from her, you will inherit her. You will inherit her. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. You're a son of promise. You're a firstborn son. You're going to inherit, provided you've been born from the Jerusalem above. Barak Yahuwah, for it's been written, celebrate, O barren, you who do not bear. Break forth and shout, you who do not have birth pains. For the deserted one has many more children than she who has a husband. And we, brothers, as Ishak, are children of promise. Now, to go a little bit further in this, Ishak is the son of promise, because not only did Yahuwah say, in Ishak shall your seed be called, but we must understand that Ishmael, in accordance with this text, was indeed born according to the flesh. He was. Yes, he was. Hagar was a young, vibrant woman when Ishak was born, although Abraham was an older man, Hagar was a young, vibrant woman. Ishak, on the other hand, his womb was as good as dead. Her womb was dead, and Abraham was as good as dead when he was born. And so Ishak's conception and birth was in accordance with the promise. It was in accordance with the Ruach. It was not in accordance with the flesh. This was a supernatural occurrence. There was nothing supernatural about Ishmael's birth. He was born according to the flesh. Ishak was born according to the Ruach. And so his seed, as it is written, in Ishak shall your seed be called, are also born of the Ruach, and are also firstborn sons, and who will also inherit, because we have the nature and character of Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. We have his root. We have his root. Barak Yahuwah. And we, brothers, as Ishak was, are children of promise. But as he was born according to the flesh, then persecuted him born according to the Ruach, so also now. But what does the scripture say? Cast out the female servant and her son. Indeed, you Edomites, you who don't have the Ruach of Yahuwah, you who don't have his nature and his characteristics, you're going to be cast out. You're not going to enter. I don't care about your genealogy. I don't care about your genealogy. If you continue to reject the inheritance, if you continue to reject the promise like Esau did, which is the Ruach. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. This is what he rejected. And this is what all his descendants reject. If you continue to reject the Ruach HaKadosh, you are going to be cast out like the bondwoman, because you're still in your flesh. You're still in your flesh, and you're not going to inherit. You're not. No, you're not. You're not going to inherit. But as he who was born according to the flesh, then persecuted him born according to the Ruach, so also now, indeed, those of you who are still in your flesh, you persecute those who are born of the Ruach. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You still do. You're full of hate, just like your father Esau, and just like your father Hashatan. I don't care what color you are. We're talking about Ruach here. We're talking about Ruach here. Yahuwah don't care nothing about your skin. He looks at the heart. It's about the nature of the Ruach that is in you. We judge them by their fruit. We judge by fruit and by character, not by color of skin or by texture of hair. It's about the Ruach. Many of you are Edomites, calling somebody else Edomites because you're in your flesh. But what does the scripture say? Cast out the female servant and her son, for the son of the female servant shall by no means be heir with the son of the free woman. Indeed, you're not going to inherit. You're not going to inherit, because only firstborn sons receive the firstborn barakah, those who have the very nature and character of their father via his Ruach. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Therefore, brothers, we are not children of the female servant, but of the free woman. But of the free woman. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. So I'm going to read here just a couple more precepts here. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Just bear with me, Mashpaka. Seeing here. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. So, again, if you don't have the nature and character of Yahuwah, then you're not his son. If you don't have his spirit, his Ruach, then you're not his son. If you're not his firstborn son, you're not going to inherit. You're not going to inherit. And so, Shaul there in Galatians 4 is talking about the difference between the Ruach and the flesh. And flesh won't inherit. Only those born of the Ruach are going to inherit. Those who have been reborn according to the promise. Those who have received the very nature and character of Yahuwah himself and are acting according to that very nature and character. Only these are going to inherit. Only these are going to inherit. And so he equated the Mount Sinai covenant with the covenant of the flesh, which was given in the circumcision of the flesh. Indeed, I made the point that we must be circumcised, but the circumcision of the flesh is not going to gain us an inheritance. Only the circumcision of the heart is going to allow us to gain an inheritance, because this allows us to take on the very nature and character of Yahuwah. But we are still to circumcise our 8-day-old sons. We're still to circumcise our 8-day-old sons, because this is the Torah. This is the Torah. And this must be carried out. This must be carried out with our 8-day-old sons, because this is Torah, and this is given as an everlasting covenant. This is the Torah for our 8-day-old sons, but it's not required for adults. But the circumcision of the heart is. The circumcision of the heart is, and by this circumcision do we take on the very nature and character of Yahuwah himself, and whereby becoming his firstborn sons. Looking at Acts 21:17 through 24, we see this here. And when we had arrived in Jerusalem, the brothers received us gladly. And on the following day, Shaul went in with us to Yaqub, and all the elders came. And having greeted them, he was relating one by one what Elohim had done among the nations through his service. And when they heard it, they praised the master. And they said to him, "You see, brother, how many thousands of Yahudim there are who have believed and are all ordered for the Torah. But they have been informed about you, that you teach the Yahudim who are among the nations to forsake Masha, saying not to circumcise the children, nor to walk according to the practices." He wasn't teaching them to not circumcise the children, because that's Torah. The Torah is to circumcise your 8-day-old sons. This is Torah, and this is given as an everlasting covenant. This is given as an everlasting covenant. But in order for adults to inherit, you must receive the circumcision of the heart, whereby receiving the very nature and character of Yahuwah himself. Why is it for 8-day-old sons? Because Yahusha declares, unless you are like one of them, like a little babe, like a child, you will by no means inherit. And so a babe, a child, is more like Yahuwah at birth than at any other time. They're like Yahuwah. And so the circumcision of the flesh is everlasting to them. They will inherit. A babe will inherit, because he has no crime in him. A babe, a child, will inherit. And so he must be circumcised at 8 days old. He's like Yahuwah. He has his nature and his character. And we must be like them. We must be like babes. We must be like children. This is why we must be what? Reborn as babes. We must be reborn. And then what? And then be circumcised. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Upon the heart. Upon the heart. And then take on the very nature and character of Yahuwah, whereby we too will inherit. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. And so this should dispel those false teachings that Paul taught against Torah. He did not. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. And some of you are going to be punished for blaspheming an innocent man. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. What then is it? They shall certainly hear that you have come. So do this, what we say to you. We have 4 men who have taken a vow, a Nazarene vow. Numbers, the 15th chapter, I believe. Take them and be cleansed with them, and pay their expenses, so that they shave their heads. This is a Nazarene vow. Shaul kept Torah. Paul kept Torah. Yes, he did. And he taught Torah. And all shall know that what they have been informed about you is not so, but that you yourself also walk orderly, keeping the Torah. Keeping the Torah. Barak Yahuwah. Acts the 15th chapter. Acts the 15th chapter. Acts the 15th chapter. Do I want to read that? Actually, I want to go back to Barashif 21. Barashif 21. And I'm going to read verse 1 through 12. And Yahuwah visited Sarah as he had said, and Yahuwah did for Sarah as he had spoken. So Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the appointed time of which Elohim had spoken to him. And this was on the day of Shabu'ut, the same day that the Mashiach was born. And Abraham called the name of his son, who was to be born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Ishkak. And Abraham circumcised his son Ishkak when he was 8 days old, as Elohim had commanded him. And we just read that in Ma'aseh, or Acts, the 21st chapter. That's still at play. That's still at play. Because an 8-day-old child has more of the nature and character of Yahuwah than an adult. And thus he will inherit. He will inherit. But an adult, unless we are reborn as little children, born from above, unless this old man dies and we are reborn as children, as little children, and whereby receiving a circumcision, but the circumcision of the heart, which is a sign of the everlasting covenant, and whereby taking on his very nature and character and being reborn as firstborn sons, we're not going to inherit. We're not going to inherit. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Ishkak was born to him. And Sarah said, Elohim has made me laugh, and everyone who hears of it laughs with me. Hence Ishkak means laughter. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on that day that Ishkak was weaned. And Sarah said to the son of Hagar, the Mashraim, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. Let me read that again. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Mashraim, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. So she said to Abraham, drive out this female servant and her son, who was born according to the flesh. For the son of the female servant shall not inherit with my son. Why is he a servant? Because he's a slave. You're a slave. If you're still in bondage to your flesh, you're a slave. If you haven't been reborn from above, you're still a servant. You're still in bondage and slavery to your flesh. And you're not a son of Yahuwah, and you will not inherit, because indeed Yahuwah is Ruk. Drive out this female servant and her son. For the son of the female servant shall not inherit with my son. Shall not inherit. Only the firstborn sons are going to inherit. Only those who have the very nature and character of Yahuwah, which is his root, dwelling in them. He shall not inherit with my son, with Ishkak. And the matter was very evil in the eyes of Abraham because of his son. But Elohim said to Abraham, let it not be evil in your eyes because of the boy, and because of your female servant. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice. For in Ishkak your seed is called. For in Ishkak your seed is called. Those who are born not according to the flesh, not according to the slave woman, but according to the root. And if we have his root, if his root is in us, if he has entered us as a man enters a woman, then we are in a marriage covenant with him. The everlasting covenant has been renewed with us. He then writes his Torah upon our hearts. His Torah is his very nature and character. And when he writes his Torah upon our hearts, we then take on his very nature and character as firstborn sons. And thus, as a firstborn son, we will inherit. Indeed, those who reject the root, as many still do, you're not going to inherit. As Esau did. This is what Esau rejected. He rejected the root. He rejected the birthright of a son. The birthright of a son. We are not sons unless we are reborn of root. He rejected this. Jacob did not. Ishkak did not. Abraham did not. Eber did not. Shem did not. Noach did not. Methuselah did not. Canuk did not. And all the way down to Adam. They did not. Indeed, even Adam is going to inherit. Yes, he is. Because Yahuwah, our Father, redeemed him. He is going to inherit. Yes, he is. Acts, the 15th chapter, verse 1 through 10. And certain men came down from Yehuda and were teaching the brothers. Here, this Acts 15 goes hand in hand with Galatians. It goes hand in hand with Galatians. Galatians, again, I told you, is all about circumcision. Acts 15 goes hand in hand with Galatians. Reading here, and certain men came down from Yahudah and were teaching the brothers, unless you are circumcised according to the practice of Moshe, you are unable to be saved. I already told you that circumcision is a salvation issue, but not the circumcision of the flesh for an adult. For a child, yes, it is. Yes, it is. For a child, yes, it is. But for an adult, it is not. It is not. But circumcision is a salvation issue. And this is what Shaul was talking about. When he was talking about Ishkak, he was talking about being reborn from above, whereby we receive a circumcision not made with hands upon the heart. So circumcision is required for deliverance. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because when we receive that circumcision, we're then reborn as firstborn sons. And as a firstborn son, we will inherit. We will inherit. We will inherit eternal life. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Thus we will be delivered. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. So when Shaul and Barnabas had no small dissension and dispute with them, they arranged for Shaul and Barnabas and certain others of them to go up to Jerusalem to the emissaries and elders about the question. So being sent on their way by the assembly, they passed through Phoenicia and Shamarum, relating the conversion of the nations. And they were causing great gladness to all the brothers. And having arrived in Jerusalem, they were received by the assembly and the ambassadors and the emissaries and the elders. And they reported all that Elohim had done with them. And some of the believers who belonged to the sect of the Pharisees rose up, saying, it is necessary to circumcise them and to command them to keep the Torah of Moshe. Yes, that's true. They must keep the Torah of Moshe, but they do not have to be circumcised. But a circumcision of the heart is required. And the emissaries and elders came together to look into the matter. And when there had been much dispute, Kepha rose up and said to them, men, brothers, you know that a good while ago Elohim chose among us that by mouth the nations would hear the word of the good news and believe. What's the good news? That the everlasting covenant between Yahuwah and his people, Yahuwah and his creation, had been renewed by the shed dam of Yahushua HaMashiach. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And all who would receive him and engraft him to Yahshua, all will receive life. The everlasting covenant will be renewed with them. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Because if they receive his spirit, they then take on his nature and his characteristic, and they become firstborn sons, irrespective of nation, tribe, or tongue. Yes, it will. Yes, they will. And Elohim, who knows the heart, bore witness to them by giving them the Kadush Ruch. Yes, he did. And yes, he does. As also to us. And made no distinction between us and them, cleansing their hearts by belief. Now then, why do you try Elohim by putting a yoke on the neck of the taught ones, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? What yoke is he talking about? The circumcision of the flesh. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. That's a yoke. Why is it a yoke? Because the flesh is bondage. Because the flesh cannot keep Torah. The flesh cannot keep Torah in root and in truth. No, it can't. No, it can't. It cannot. The flesh cannot keep Torah. It cannot. We're getting ready to read it. The flesh cannot keep Torah. I don't care about your feeble efforts to keep Torah without the root. You can't do it. You cannot do it. Without the root, you don't have its nature and its character. And so the yoke that he was talking about here was the circumcision of the flesh. The flesh is bondage, as Shaul talks about in Galatians 4. The flesh is bondage. It belongs to Hashatan. We must shed this flesh. We must be reborn from above, whereby putting this flesh under subjection, whereby taking on the very nature and character of Yahuwah. And if we do, we will inherit, because we are firstborn sons, having his nature and his character. Romans 7, verse 7 through 25. What then shall we say? Is the Torah crime? Let it not be. However, I did not know crime except through the Torah. For also the covetous I knew it. I knew not if the Torah had not said, you shall not covet. But crime, having taken occasion through the command, did work in me all sorts of covetousness. covetousness. But the command, let me go back. For also the covetousness I knew not, if the Torah had not said, you shall not covet. But crime, having taken the occasion through the command, did work in me all sorts of covetousness. Why? Because the flesh cannot keep Torah. The flesh can't keep Torah. For apart from Torah, crime is dead. And I was alive apart from Torah once. But when the command came, the crime revived, and I died. How did he die? Because he couldn't keep Torah in the flesh. And the wages of crime is death. The wages of crime is death. The flesh can't keep Torah. So he died. Barak Yahuwah. And the command which was to result in life, indeed, if we are careful to obey Torah, we will live by it. This is in the Torah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And the command which was to result in life, this I found to result in death. Why? Because if we disobey Torah, the wages of crime is death. And the flesh cannot keep Torah. It can't. No, it can't. No, it can't. For crime, having taken the occasion through the command, deceived me, and through it killed me. Why? Because the wages of crime is death, and the flesh cannot keep Torah. So that the Torah truly is kadosh, and the command kadosh. Now here is a man we're talking about, Paul, who had been trained in the Torah since he was a little boy. He knew the Torah. In fact, he had to memorize the Torah before he even began training under his teacher. He knew the Torah, but he could not keep the Torah in his flesh. No, he couldn't. No, he couldn't. The Torah truly is kadosh, and the command kadosh, and righteous and good. Therefore, has that which is good become death to me? Let it not be. But the crime, that crime might be manifest, was working death in me through what is good, so that crime through the command might become an exceedingly great criminal. For we know that the Torah is spiritual. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because Torah is Yahuwah. He is root. He is spirit. He is spirit. For we know that the Torah is spiritual, but I am fleshly. Thus the flesh cannot obey Torah. It can't keep Torah. We must have the living Torah inside of us, whereby adopting us as sons, whereby us taking on his very nature and character, whereby us becoming his firstborn sons, being reborn from above as his firstborn sons, whereby we will receive the inheritance of the firstborn. Barak Yahuwah. But I am fleshly, sold under crime. For what I work, I know not. For what I wish, that I do not practice. But what I hate, that I do. But if I do what I do not wish, I agree with the Torah that it is good. And now it is no longer I that work it, but the crime dwelling in me. For I know that in me, that is my flesh, dwells no good. For a wish is present with me, but to work the good I do not find. For the good that I wish to do, I do not do. But the evil I do not wish to do, this I practice. And if I do that which I do not wish, it is no longer I who work it, but the crime dwelling in me. I find therefore this law, that when I wish to do the good, that the evil is present with me. For I delight in the Torah of Elohim according to the inward man. But I see another Torah in my members, in its flesh, battling against the Torah of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the Torah of crime, which is in my members. Wretched man that I am. Listen, who shall deliver me from this body of death? What do you mean death? The wages of crime is death. The flesh cannot obey Torah. If you're in the flesh, still in the flesh, then you're a son of Hashatan, because you don't obey Torah. You're a son of Cain. You're a son of Esau. You're a son of Esau. You are a descendant of Nimrod, because you reject the Ruach HaKadosh. You reject it. Who alone can set us free from this body of crime and cause us to take on the very nature and character of Yahuwah, which is his Torah. Thanks to Elohim, through Yahushua Mashiach, our master. So then, with the mind, I myself truly serve the Torah of Elohim, but with the flesh, the Torah of crime. Romans 8, verse 1 through 9. Romans 8, verse 1 through 9. There is then now no condemnation to those who are in Mashiach Yahushua, who do not work according to the flesh, but according to the root. Why is there no condemnation to those who are in Mashiach Yahushua? Him and us and him. Why? Because if we are reborn now from above, whereby having the Torah written upon our hearts, whereby taking on its very nature and its very character, becoming living Torahs, we will live. We will live. Because why? The wages of crime is death. But if we are reborn, we will live, because now we've taken on this very nature and character, and the everlasting covenant has been renewed with us, and we will inherit. And we will inherit, provided that we've been born from above and no longer walk according to the flesh. Reading again, there is then now no condemnation to those who are Mashiach Yahushua, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the root. For the Torah of the root of the life in Mashiach Yahushua has set me free from the Torah of crime and death. It has set me free from the Torah of crime and death. How? Because when his root dwells in us, his righteous root dwells in us, he keeps us in the path of righteousness. He teaches us the ancient paths. He keeps us from turning to the right or to the left. And he gives us the ability to put our sinful flesh under subjection. If we have his root, we are under no more obligation to obey the sinful desires, the criminal desires of our flesh. If we have his root, he has circumcised our hearts, whereby writing his Torah upon our hearts, whereby giving us a love for Torah and a willingness to obey it, whereby now we have taken on his very nature and character and have become firstborn sons, and we will inherit. We will inherit. Others who reject his root, who reject the promise, who reject the inheritance, will not inherit. Will not inherit. For the Torah being powerless, and that it was weak through the flesh, and that it was weak through the flesh prior to the giving of the root. This was the giving of the covenant in the flesh. And this was prior to the, well, this wasn't, let me rephrase that. The root was available to them, but they rejected it. They rejected it, and a whole generation perished in the wilderness, just like Esau perished, because he rejected the root. And this is why his birthright was taken, because he rejected the root. In that it was weak through the flesh, Elohim having sent his son in the likeness of flesh of crime, and concerning crime, condemned crime in the flesh, so that the righteousness of Torah should be completed in us, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the root. What is the righteousness of Torah? In accordance with Deuteronomy, Adabarim 6:25, Torah is righteousness, and it will become righteousness for us if we obey the laws, statutes, and commandments contained within it. So now with the root indwelling in us, the righteousness of Torah is completed in us. It is completed in us, because we are able now to obey Torah. We are now able to obey Torah by walking in the root, whereas in the flesh we cannot. For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the matters of the flesh. But those who live according to the root, the matters of the root. For the mind of the flesh is death. Yes, it is, because the wages of sin is death. The flesh can't obey Torah. You just heard that in Romans 7. The flesh can't keep it. No, it can't. No, it can't. And those who are in the flesh are sons of Hashatan, are descendants of Cain, are descendants of Namrud, are descendants of Esau. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. But the mind of the root is life and shalom, because the mind of the flesh is enmity towards Elohim. We talked about that in Exodus chapter 20. For it does not subject itself to the Torah of Elohim. Listen, neither indeed is it able. And those who are in the flesh are unable to please Elohim. But you are not in the flesh, but in the root, if indeed the root of Elohim dwells in you. And if anyone does not have the root of the Mashiach, this one is not his. This one is not his. If anyone does not have the root of the Mashiach, this one does not belong to Yahuwah. This one is not his firstborn son. And this one will not inherit. So we must be born, not of flesh, reborn, not of flesh and not of blood, but of Haruk. if we expect to take on the very nature and character of Yahuwah, whereby we become his firstborn sons, whereby we inherit. If you continue to reject his Ruach, you are going to, as it is written in Galatians 4 and in Bar Sheaf, I believe 21, the son of the bondwoman is not going to inherit. The flesh is not going to inherit. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the reign of Shamayim. It cannot. It cannot. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the reign of Shamayim. If you're not reborn from above, you're not his firstborn son, and you're not going to inherit. You're not going to inherit. If you continue to reject the Ruach, you're rejecting your birthright, just like Esau, and whereby making you a descendant of Esau, whereby making you an Edomite. Lucas, the first chapter, verse 26 through 35. Or Luke, the first chapter, verse 26 through 35. And in the 6th month, the messenger Gabriel was sent to Elohim, to a city of Galal named Nazareth, to a maiden engaged to a man whose name was Yahusuf, of the house of Daud. And the maiden's name was Maryam. The messenger coming to her said, "Greetings, favored one. The master is with you. Baruch are you among women." But she was greatly disturbed at his word, and wondered what kind of greeting this was. And the messenger said to her, "Do not be afraid, Maryam, for you have found favor with Elohim. And see, you shall conceive it in your womb, and shall give birth to a son, and call his name Yahusha. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Most High, of all Yun. And Yahuwah, listen, and he, let me go back here, because this is very pivotal here. And see, you shall conceive in your womb, and shall give birth to a son, and call his name Yahusha. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of all Yun. And Yahuwah, Elohim, shall give him the throne of his father Daud, and he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and there shall be no end to his reign." And Maryam said to the messenger, "How shall this be, since I do not know a man?" And the messenger answering said to her, "The Kadush Ruach," listen, just like Ishkak, he wasn't born of flesh and blood. "The set apart Ruach, the Kadush Ruach, shall come upon you, and the power of all Ayun shall overshadow you. And for that reason, the Kadush one born of you shall be called Son of Elohim." Son of Elohim. Only his firstborn sons, who were born not of blood and not of flesh, but of Ruach, are firstborn sons of Elohim. And only these have his nature and character, and only these will inherit. Only these will inherit. Edomites are not going to inherit. Edomites are not going to inherit. Sons of Cain, sons of Hashatan, Edomites are not going to inherit. Yahuchanan John, the first chapter, verse 6 through 13. There was a man sent from Elohim, whose name was Yahuchanan. This one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not that light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light. He was the true light. Let me start over. The one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not that light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which enlightens every man coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the authority to become children of Elohim. Listen, to those believing in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the desire of flesh, nor of the desire of man, but of Elohim. But of Elohim. And our fathers carried this very same trait, this very same characteristic. This is why they were firstborn sons, because they had the very nature and character of Yahuwah. They were born not of flesh, not of blood, but of Elohim. But of Elohim, born of Ruach, having his Ruach, whereby having his very nature and character, and whereby given the ability to obey Torah and Ruach and in truth. These are my righteous fathers. These are my righteous fathers. Barak Yahuwah. Habal, Shaph, Abraham, Ishkak, Jacob, Yahusuf, Ephraim, Yahusha were all born of the Rook. The promise is Haruk. The promise is to restore us as sons and daughters. To restore us as sons and daughters so that we will get the inheritance. So that we will inherit. Only firstborn sons are going to inherit. This is what Esau rejected. He rejected it. And his descendants continue to reject the Ruach HaKadosh. They continue to reject the Ruach HaKadosh. John, the 1st chapter, verse 32 and 33. And Yahuchanan bore witness, saying, I have seen the Ruach coming down from Shamayim like a dove, and remain on him. And I did not know him, but he who sent me to immerse in water said to me, upon whom you see the Ruach coming down and remaining on him, this is he who immerses in the Kadosh Ruach. This is he who immerses in the Kadosh Ruach. It is his Ruach that indwells in us. And it is he that gives us the right to become sons and daughters of Yahuwah, whereby becoming firstborn sons, whereby having the everlasting covenant renewed in us, whereby now having taken on his nature and character, whereby now being privy to the inheritance as firstborn sons. Barak Yahuwah. Yahuchanan, or John, the 14th chapter, verse 15 through 26. If you love me and shall guard my commands, and I shall ask the Father, and he shall give you another helper to stay with you forever, the Ruach of truth, whom the world is unable to receive, because it does not see him or know him. But you know him, for he stays with you and shall be in you. I shall not leave you orphans. I am coming to you. Yet a little while, and the world no longer sees me. But you shall see me, because I live, and you shall live. In that day you shall know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who possesses my commands and guards them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me shall be loved by my Father, and I shall love him and manifest myself to him. And I shall love him and manifest myself to him. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. So all of our righteous fathers, starting with Adam, I'm going to end this now, I believe, had the Ruach HaKadosh, and the Ruach HaKadosh is the promise. If you go back and read the forgotten books of Adam and Kua, it is Abba's promise to Adam to restore him to the everlasting covenant, to restore him and to restore him back to the everlasting covenant, whereby giving him access to the inheritance as the firstborn son again, whereby giving him access to the inheritance as a firstborn son again. Everybody who rejects the Ruach, it's not his firstborn son. They are Edomites. Barak Yahuwah. As it reads here in 2nd Esdras, the 6th chapter, verse 7 and 9. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Ishak, from Jacob and Esau, were born of him. Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Why? Jacob is the firstborn. And Jacob walked in the Ruach of Yahuwah. Jacob had the very nature and character, of Yahuwah. The very same nature and character of Yahuwah. And all his descendants who have this very same Ruach, the Ruach of Yahuwah, the Ruach of the Messiah, the Akkad, have this very same nature and character of Yahuwah, which is the nature and character of a firstborn son. Indeed, firstborn son is the beginning of his father's strength. He is more like his father than any of the other children, than any of the rest. And thus he is given the possessions of his father. He is given the inheritance. And thus, Jacob and his seed, the seed of Abraham, are going to inherit the Araz. These are the seed of Adam. Adam was a righteous man. Yes, he was. Our father Adam was a righteous man. He transgressed one command and he failed. Yes, he did. He was a righteous man. And Yahuwah, our Father, loved him. And he came and in accordance with his promise to him, and he delivered him, he saved him, he redeemed him, and restored his inheritance to him. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. 2 Ezra, the 6th chapter, verse 53 through 59. Upon the 6th day thou gavest commandment unto the earth, that before thee should bring forth beasts, cattle, and creeping things. And after these Adam also, whom thou madest master of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. All this I have spoken before thee, Yahuwah, because thou madest the world for our sakes, his firstborn son's sakes. This is the inheritance, everlasting life, for our sakes, provided that you have his very nature and his very character. Barak Yahuwah. As for the other people, which are not born of his root, that do not have his nature and his character, and are not his sons and daughters, that are not his firstborn sons. As for the other people, which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing but like unto spittle, and hast likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel, because they won't obey him. They won't obey him, because they won't obey him. And now, Yahuwah, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be masters over us, to devour us. But we thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, yes, thy firstborn, thy only begotten, both the native born and the stranger alike, who have engrafted into Yahshua, who have been engrafted by the Spirit, by the Ruach of Yahushua HaMashiach, by the Ruach HaKadosh, and who have his Ruach embedded in their heart, whereby being brought back into the renewal of an everlasting marriage covenant, having a Torah written upon their hearts, and whereby taking on the very nature and character of Yahuwah himself, both the native born and stranger alike. Thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? How long shall this endure? But if you don't have his nature and character, Esau, I don't care what color you are, Esau. If you don't have his root, you don't have his nature and character, and you're not his son. And you're not his son, and you won't inherit. And you will not inherit. You will not. We'll read one more precept. We're going to shut this down. Matthew, the 13th chapter. I'm going to read verses 24 through 30, and then verses 36 through 43, beginning at verse 24. Another parable he put before them, saying, the reign of the Shamayim has become like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed darnel among the wheat. Who is the wheat? The wheat is Yahshua. The wheat is his firstborn son, and went away. And when the blade sprouted and bore fruit, then a darnel also appeared. The darnel is Esau. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did you sow good seed in your field? From where then does it have the darnel? And he said to them, a man, an enemy, did this. And the servant said to him, do you wish then that we go and gather them up? But he said, no, lest while you gather up the darnel, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together unto the harvest. And at the time of harvest, I shall say to the reapers, first gather the darnel, first gather Esau, first gather Cain, first gather the descendants of Namrud and the children of Hashatan. First gather the darnel and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my granary to inherit. Barak Yahuwah. Then having sent the crowds away, Yahushua went into the house, and his taught ones came to him, saying, explain to us the parable of the darnel of the field. And he answering said to them, he who is sowing the good seed is the son of Adam, and the field is the world. The world, yes it is, yes it is. And the good seed, these are the sons of the rain. These are the sons of the rain. These are firstborn sons. These are firstborn sons who have his root and who have his seed in their heart. The seed is the root. The seed is the word. The living word is the root. Barak Yahuwah. And the good seed, these are the sons of the rain. But the darnel are the sons of the wicked one. Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you that that Esau was the son of the wicked one? That Cain is the sons of the wicked one? Did I not tell you that? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. If you're not born from above, you're not his son. You're not his son. You're rejecting your birthright, and you're not going to inherit. You're going to be bound and cast into prison with your father, Hashatan. You're going to be bound and cast into prison into the eternal lake of fire with your father, Hashatan. Esau, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what color you are. If you reject the Ruach HaKadosh and you don't keep the commandments of Yahuwah, you are a seed of Esau. You are Edomite who rejected his birthright. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And the good seed, these are the sons of the rain, but the darnel are the sons of the wicked one. And the enemy who sowed them is the devil. And the harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the messengers. As the darnel then is gathered and burned in the fire, so it shall be at the end of the age. The son of Adam shall send out his messengers, and they shall gather out of his reign all the stumbling blocks, and all those doing lawlessness, all those not obeying Torah. Again, Torah being the nature and character of Yahuwah, whereby if we have the nature and character of Yahuwah through obedience and through the indwelling of the Ruach, we are his sons and daughters, and we will inherit. We will inherit. But all those who do not have his nature and his character, who have the nature and character of the lawless one, Hashatan, are going to be thrown into the lake of fire with their father. He is the lawless one. And those doing lawlessness are his father. Those doing Torah are sons and daughters of Yahuwah and have the indwelling of his root, taking on his nature and character. And we will inherit with him as his firstborn sons. And those doing lawlessness, and shall throw them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous shall shine forth as the sun in the reign of their father. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Esau and Yasha'al, Cain and Abel, or Shaph, wheat and tares, sheep and goats. The first Adam and the second Adam, those born of flesh and those born of Ruach, seed of the wicked one. Seed of the wicked one. Those who were born of the flesh are seed of the wicked one. Those who are born of the Ruach are seed of Yahuwah. Are seed of Yahuwah. This is the end. In the end, two people, Jacob and Esau, are going to be separated. Jacob is the son of the promise, and he is the son of the promise because his father Ishak was the son of the promise. He is also son of the promise because he has the promise. He had the promise of the Spirit indwelling in him, whereby taking on the nature and the characteristics of Yahuwah. And so either you're a seed of the wicked one or you're a seed of Yahuwah. Period. Either you are Esau or Yasha'al, Cain or Abel or Shaph, wheat and tares, sheep and goats, first Adam or the second Adam. Either you're born of the flesh or you're born of the fruit. Either you're a seed of the wicked one or you're a seed of Yahuwah. There will be no tares. There will be no tares in the wilderness. There will be no tares, rather, to enter into the inheritance. There will be no tares. No tares are going to inheritance. Are going to inherit only those who have the nature and the character of Yahuwah. Only those who have the nature and the character of Yahuwah, whereby becoming his firstborn sons. And if you don't obey Torah, if you don't even attempt to obey Torah, he's not giving you his Ruach. He is not going to give you his Ruach. He is not going to give you his Ruach. And if you don't have his Ruach, you are not his son. You're not his son. So the call to you this day is to not reject the inheritance like Esau did. You don't have to remain an Edomite. You don't have to remain an Edomite. You don't have to continue rejecting the Ruach. I call out to the Ruach. Call out for Abba, Yahuwah, to send this Ruach. Call out to him. Ask, knock, and seek for Yahuwah to send this Ruach, whereby receiving the adoption of a son and daughter. Seek him while he may be found by you. Don't continue to reject the Ruach. Don't continue to reject Torah. Don't continue to reject your birthright. Be immersed in the righteous Kadosh name of Yahushua HaMashiach, whereby having the penalty of death paid in you and through him, whereby being reborn to the newness of life, whereby being reborn to the newness of life, and whereby receiving his Ruach HaKodesh, whereby taking on his very nature and character, and whereby being adopted as a firstborn son, and whereby now having the everlasting covenant renewed in you. As the everlasting covenant is only renewed in firstborn sons. It is only renewed in firstborn sons, whereby being privy to the inheritance that is only given to firstborn sons. Don't be like my ancestors who rejected the root in the wilderness and a whole generation perished. Don't be like them. Don't be like them. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear this Yom, if you hear this word, if you're under the sound of my voice, harden not your heart this day. Harden not your heart. Receive the engrafted word. Do not reject the Ruach HaKodesh. Do not reject him. Do not reject your birthright. Do not reject your birthright. Do not be cast out like the bondwoman. Heed the word of Yahuwah this Yom. I pray that this message has been a barakah. I pray that it has been enlightening to you. I pray that you will seek him while he may be found by you. I pray that you will seek him even this night while he may be found by you. Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name upon the children of Yasha'al, and I myself shall barak them. So be it, so be it, so be it.